goes by the name Mr. Hagi Suwareh. Let us please clap for Mr. Suwareh. Let us clap for him. If you are happy and you know, clap your hands. If you are hungry and you know, clap your hands. If you are happy and you know, and you really want to soul. If you are happy and you know, slap your hands. One more time, a round of applause for Mr. Suwareh.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon to one and all present in this most important gathering. I first of all thank the Masrur school staff, teachers, and anybody who works towards the success of the launching of this amazing book called The Dream Chaser. But I would be fair if I didn't thank the parents of the author of this most important book that is called The Dream Chaser, Mr. Sambu Kamara and his wife, who created an environment for our to be comfortably writing a book to be a friend of Gambians and even non-Gambians at large. This brings me, before I go, I have to thank the high table, that is Mr. Jarali Kamara and Honorable Musa Bachi, and the former Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Honorable Ahmad Sani, who is sent to be present here by the party leader and the Secretary General of the United Democratic Party, who is no person other than Excellency Ali Husseinu Bravo. This book, when I was informed about the event that's supposed to take place today, I was reached out by the committee to help them get this book being launched. And that day, I think I spent a whole of a minute thinking if a small teenager by the name of our Kamara could write a book for Gambians, what right ways to help that hour launching that book to be a friend of Gambian people. So I urge you all to give a lot of effort for our Kamara. Our is an amazing girl. If you read this book or you follow the interviews she has made, you will know that all the time what I keep saying is that the destiny of Gambia is in its classrooms, and our has really manifested that. I always say that there is no loyal friend. There is no friend as loyal as a book. Books are as fellow friends. They improve not only our knowledge, but wisdom and information in helping us to make or take the right decisions in life. And this cannot be in the absence of education. It is usually a belief that education is the foundation for all our development, and life itself is based on development. So if life is based on development, that means that sending our schools, sending our students or sending our kids to schools for education, that tells us we are all ready to contribute immensely to the development of this country called the Gambia. And I think this book will inspire a lot of you not to only see it as a beautiful literature, but to know that if you go or you know the importance of education, You quote Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us that, telling the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he said on the earth, the first thing he told him is that, Iqra. That tells you that if you are not educated or we are not educated, like what the science work says, we have to contribute to the development of this country in either having the required skills or by being a kind of versatile in terms of education. So you cannot get anything as far as skill is concerned if you don't go to that kind of school that will educate you to have the relevant skills that will help us to develop this country. One of them is what? Is to write a book, to create a book that demands nothing from you or complains nothing from you if you are in it. So I say again, thank you very much, Ms. Our Camera, for creating a friend that is loyal as a hope for the Gambian people to go through. So I thank you all for your participation and your audience.
I have the people of honor to invite on stage Honorable Uncle Michael Hamadi Secka.
The Master of Ceremony. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, much more those on the floor. Good evening to the students, boys and girls. I wish also to recognize the presence of Honorable Amadou Sane, who is among us. I also wish to recognize the presence of His Excellency Musa Yali Bachili. I also wish to recognize the presence of Jalili Kamara. I also wish to recognize the presence of Honorable Hagi Suwareh. I also wish to recognize the presence of the principal of this school, and I also wish to recognize Mr. and Mrs. Kamara, the father and mother of our Kamara, and I also wish to recognize our Kamara, the lady of the moment. Today, is the most important person here. On this day, our has added her name in the list of Gambian writers. Today, our has added her name in the list of West African writers. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the book, look at the cover. The cover is black, and there is a light that shows the dream chaser is going to chase her dream and get her dream. But here, the dream that our is talking about is not the one that when we sleep. The dream is the plan, the route map that our has already cast and that she want to get. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many interpretations of a book as there are writers. The drama cast here today is one interpretation of the book. But when you read the book, there are different interpretations. That is the beauty of art. The work of an art is just like the work of a sculpture. It depends the angle that you stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I would urge every individual here to buy a book. My role is to review the book, but I will not do justice if I review the whole book. That means I am going to stop you from buying the book. And I want all of you today to buy the book or buy a book. Ladies and gentlemen, as writers, we have a problem. What language do we communicate? We have what we call linguistic exile. The very purpose that this book is meant for is not getting to the people whose this book belongs to. Those people are in what we call linguistic exile. This book could have been written in Sarhule. It could have been written in Mandinka, because there is a mismatch between the book and our culture, in the sense that it is written in English. So our grandfathers, our grandmothers, who cannot read, we should take the time, buy the book, and then try to read the book for our grandfathers, our grandmothers, or those who are not educated. That's the best way you can help our. Ladies and gentlemen, today our has demonstrated what Frantz Fanon said in his book entitled The Wretched of the Earth. In the opening chapter, Frantz Fanon said, out of relative obscurity, each generation has a role to play. You either betray it or you fulfill it. Today, our camera has fulfilled her role in her age and in her generation. She has written down something that we can read and enjoy. But further, in that chapter again, called The Wretched of the Earth, Frantz Fanon said, now is the beginning of the end and the end of the beginning. When African affairs will be cut and tailored in the table conferences of England, Brussels, and France. In this very school here today, our camera has written something for us to enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, shortly before his death, Patrice Lumumba wrote a letter to his wife, and the letter goes, my dear wife, I have completely lost faith looking at the way the Belgian forces have intruded into our country. Our own people have started to betray us. The very organization that we rely on is not paying any heed to our cries. That is the United Nations. But dead or alive, my hopes remain unshakable. It is not me who matters, it's the people of Africa and the Congo. But Patrice Lumumba, before his death, he warned his wife. He told the wife, if my children grow up, tell them all that I'm doing is for them. But another touching and inspiring paragraph is when he said, when my children grow up, tell them to rewrite the history of Africa. And that is the process in which our camera is doing. She is rewriting the history of Africa. The history of Africa is not the one documented by Michael Crowder or Basil Davison or F.K. Bois, but we the Africans have to write our own history, and it is in that process our camera is. Our camera is also today trying to propound Leopold Sédar Senghor that Jalili mentioned. Leopold Senghor, when he mentioned the word negritude, Wole Soyinka said, why the need for negritude when we have the tiger, and the tiger doesn't express its tigritude? But the answer that Leopold Sédar Senghor gave is heard by many, but understood only by few. Leopold Sédar Senghor said, yes, the tiger is stronger, but the tiger doesn't talk, and the Negro talks. What does that mean? That is voluminous. It means that talking is the measurement of one's humanity. It's through talking we carry our culture, we carry our traditional practices. That's why in ABC of dialectics and historical materialism, it is said that it is not our consciousness that reflects our social being, but it's our social being that reflects our consciousness. Our level of education is measured by the way we interact through the African socialization process. Remember, in sociology, we have 3 types of socialization. We have the vertical socialization, we have the horizontal socialization, and we have the other socialization that is practiced in the prisons. So in this book, our told us the socialization processes that an African goes through. I would not want to preempt you, though my role is to edit the book. But I want to take you through some pages. But without buying the book, you will not know the wisdom hidden in this book. Ladies and gentlemen, if you turn to page 9. Turn to page 9, ladies and gentlemen. Our told us that Sunkaru grew up having learned the basic things in the community. She lived in an extended family whereby all the siblings were knitted together. Her father, a cobbler, was well known as a result of the expertise he does. So you can see here, if you look at page 9, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the role that the people play in our African setup. We have the cadre, and that cadre is not by accident. We were divided because of the functions that we do. But those functions, they are embedded in what we call communalism. In those days, a guy like dares not to write a book. The women were not allowed to write. She will not use her name. She will use a pen name. These were the stories told around the fire, and nobody owns them. But today, this book is a physical property. It can move from one person to the other person. But who owns those stories told around the fire? But today this book is licensed. You have our name there. You have our picture there. It's the physical property of our. If you want it, you have to buy it. Then, ladies and gentlemen, you also go to page 14 of the same book. Now, in page 14, our tells us that Sunkaru finally established partnership between her village and other villages. Thus, her dream became true and changed not only her village, but that of every villager. in Sabi. Now you see, that's where the title of the book is, Dream Chaser. In page 14, you have the title of the book. Now the author has achieved her dream. She was born in a village that negates Western education. And remember that every education becomes a burden if the education doesn't change the lives to be together too. If you read sociology, you can see the relationship among the strangleholders. Ladies and gentlemen, go to page 16 again. If you turn to page 16, okay. If you turn to page 16, our has moved from a prose or a novel to poetry. And just as somebody observed, Herodotus is the father of history. Adam Smith is the father of economics. And of course, Wordsworth is the father of poetry. And Wordsworth defined poetry as the artistic and concrete expression of the human mind in a rhythmic and emotional language. So once poetry rhymes, once there is emotion, then somebody has achieved his or her aims. So instead of giving us a novel, she has now moved to poetry. And this cannot be done by many writers. So you see, our can be described by the definition given by Thomas Mann. That is, education is a supreme human gift to a unique individual that helps him to become what he or she has in her to become. And as a scientist, has written a book, a novel, that shows us that education is not like a machine with two ends, which if you put one at the one and one set of raw materials, it will produce the same. No. In Nigeria, highly scientific and scientific schools were set up. Instead of them becoming scientists, they became playwrights. And now a scientist has written a book that shows education is all-rounded. And the more all-rounded education is, more beautiful education is. Now, first of our poem is about Africa. Is paying gratitude to Africa. Look at what she said about Africa. It is here. Every soul is welcome, as we are not racist. But our black gum and white teeth sparkle, a whitish dimples on our cheeks. As the sun shines over our black skin, that shines like the pit of a black pot. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of criticizing our color, is trying to promote our color. That is the beauty of our color. That is the black color. We shine and we sparkle. And is trying to promote the cultures, the traditions of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, you also go to page 22. If you go to page 22, that one was already mentioned here. The elections we want. The elections we want is the one devoid of rigging and intimidation. The one that allows all to listen and make a fair judgment. So is urging Gambians to make a decision But remember, in as much as we believe in democracy, but the glorification of democracy and the silencing of people is fascism. To discourse on humanity and negate a man is a lie. So our is telling us that we need elections whereby the very choice of the people will be represented. There will be no election by region. And our young RC is telling us that rigging is not only on election day. Our is telling us that rigging can take place well before election day. So our is enlightening the people so that when it comes to elections, they can listen to the people and choose the best among the best. Ladies and gentlemen, you also go to page 25. In page 25, dedicated to our mothers. We all know how motherhood is. We all know how our mothers suffer. Our mothers play a very important role. So our is very grateful to her mother. She cannot forget about her mother. Our did not dedicate a poem to her father, but that doesn't mean she doesn't like the father. I don't need to bring fire into the house. But our dedicated a poem to her mother. And look at here what she says about the mother. Here, I do mean a heroine. A person who goes without a wink of sleep, rather than see her child crying, the one with the rich and pure love. Ladies and gentlemen, we know our mothers. Imagine 9 months, they are carrying us in their stomachs. And after how many months, they will keep us on their backs. How do they feel when we are sad? How do they feel when we are successful? So, our dedicated this poem to her mother. Ladies and gentlemen, go to page 29 again. Go to page 29. Okay, in page 29, our talks about child labor. Ladies and gentlemen, no writer would write in a vacuum. Our is writing, reflecting what happens in the Gambian society. How many of the young girls sell water in the streets when they should be in school? How many of the young girls sell watermelon? And how many of these girls are abused? How many of the girls are asked, don't go to school today, your mother is traveling, you have to stay here and cook dinner? Our is talking on behalf of those girls, on behalf of those women. Now look at what our writes about that. Does the streets continue to become my home? Unfortunately, the child in me died in my tummy. Then life became sour, and my family heaped insults upon me, thus telling me for every child's labor case, there are negative effects. So our is trying to enlighten those who abuse the labor of the girls, those who deny them the basic rights, and force them to do what they should not do. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, our demonstrate her patriotism by dedicating a poem to the Gambia. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you can look at the place. What our is trying to do is to change our mentality. Our is trying to provoke us. Why do we allow ourselves to be called the Francophone, the Anglophone, based on no scientific reason. You look at Gambia and Senegal. We are divided by a border, and yet we are two different countries, colonized by different masters, and we call ourselves Anglophone, Francophone, based on no geographical reasons or on no scientific reasons. That is what our is trying to condemn. We try to rewrite our history. We try to redefine ourselves. Who are we? We need to ask ourselves that question, who are we? What is the Gambia? It's a concept. Where does the Gambia begin? Where does the Gambia end? Where does Senegal begin? Where does Senegal end? It's a concept. It's just in the mind where it is. Can you touch it? Can you feel it?